like, yeah, no, so let's go whenever then.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so basically the story behind it, why I've released the way I did and all that, is just like back, I've been sitting on that song for literally about like, I don't know, 3 years or something like that, because literally down when I was in like 6th year, I was about 18 at the time, I actually had a double English in the morning, right? So I met my English teacher in the daytime. I said alright to him, he said alright back to me. We were like basically wish each other a little good morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a double English with him, but instead of going to that, I went down to the shops with my mate Little Quig, like, and we were just chilling there, and when we came back, my teacher see me, and I go, oh, alright sir, how are you again? Like, not thinking really, being a bit stupid, and he goes to me, where were you? You went to my class, and I go, ah yeah mate, I was like, I only signed in, like, you get me? And then he goes, no you fucking didn't, like, I know if you were singing in the morning, like, no you fucking didn't, like. And I go, alright, yeah, I was down the shops, and he goes, right, you need to come to English class because you need to actually be there, like, because you're actually alright at it, you get me?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt so bad after that, because like, I was like, oh shit, he actually wants the best for me, like, kind of. So then I went home that day, and I started writing a song like I normally do, and I wrote the first verse of Hatred Filled World on a piece of paper, and I brought it into school, and I gave it to my teacher, Mr. Beatty, like, and gave it to him, and he read it, and was like, yo, like, did you actually write this? And I was like, yeah, like, I rap and shit. And he goes, you have more of this? And I go, yeah, like, I rap, like, you get me? And then he goes, yeah, you need to show me more of this stuff. And he goes, oh, can I keep it? I go, no.
Won't stop, always on my grind. I got money on my mind. Can't stop, born to shine. It's up on the ladder that I climb. Won't stop, always on my grind. I got money on my mind. Can't stop, born
So
to
I'll get you to say who you are and what you're doing.
Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm RAISXN, my French. Oh, hey, my name's RAISXN. It's French for a reason. Most people mistake it for raisin, so most people be thinking I'm a dried fruit, so it is what it is. Nice to meet you.
I was going to ask you about like how you got that name and why you picked that name in the first place. Like, why was it you came on this name and used the French version as well?
How I got that name, it actually is a bit of a long story. So when I was about 15, right, I kind of went through some shit. Then at like 16, I got bumped into one of my friends, Jake, one of the best mates in school. We were walking down Griffin Avenue, showed me SoundCloud and stuff like that. And then I realised through all that, because everyone was kind of like doing unproduced stuff, but it was still blowing up and stuff, I was like, all right, this music thing's probably possible, because that was the thing I wanted to do. But then when I was going through that tough period of time, I actually was deciding on a name, and I didn't know really what to call myself. And then I was like, all right, music is kind of going to be my reason for like living, I suppose, like, you get me, like, that's what I want to do in my life. And basically reason was already taken, I'm not going to lie, reason was taken. So I was like, all right, RAISXN is French for reason, and the raison d'etre is like reason to be. So kind of like all interlinked and actually made sense. So I was like, all right, that's my name. That's how I got it.
Yeah, and so right now we're at the same spot as the first scene of your first music video.
Yeah,
Hatred Filled World.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And obviously, like, that's a lot different from your album that's coming out now. So I just want you to kind of talk about, like, or I just want to ask you about, like, how your sound has kind of progressed from Hatred Filled World, because obviously the sound of Misguided Adolescent is a lot different. And I just kind of wanted to hear about, like, the evolution of your sound and why it's come to now and why it's changed over the last, like, 6 months.
I mean, to be honest, like, music, I don't know if anyone else feels this way who makes music, but music's kind of about finding yourself low-key. Like, if you think about it, like, if you're on a creative journey, you never know where it's going to end up, where you're going with it. You're just, like, making things based off what you're feeling in the moment, right? So when I first got into music, I always wanted to make the kind of music that I'm making on Misguided Adolescent, like that more kind of like singing involved with rap. Like, I always wanted to do that, but I was never really confident in my singing voice, because I was always told when I was growing up that I couldn't sing and shit like that. But like, maybe I could, who knows? But I kept singing anyway and did it. But then with Hatred Filled World, the music that I'm surrounded with in Ireland is like very boom bappy and stuff like that, more jazz oriented. Like a lot of my mates like CK and MCG, wonderful artists, man. Literally, if you haven't checked them out, you should definitely check them out. But like, be kind of more like on that boom bappy type of style, like jazzy instrumentals. But that's what I like doing when I'm talking about more political things. But when I'm talking about pure emotions and telling stories, true emotion and stuff, I prefer kind of singing. And then I'll be heavily into like rock music and stuff like that, like the Arctic Monkeys and stuff. So that kind of delved into my sound a bit, and using all them influences with rap as well, it kind of just fused into this one thing, and it just created this sound. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be sticking with it. Hopefully I do, because like I enjoy making it, but you never know what I'm going to be doing in like a year, 2 time. Like I could be out here making indie albums, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that actually, like, do you think that like this is like your definite style, or like do you think you're going to be ever evolving as an artist, or do you think there's a point that you're trying to find with your music and you'll eventually hit it and you'll be like, this is RAISXN now? Or do you think you'll always be doing something different?
I'm not 100% certain, man, to be honest with you, because like the way I am as a person, like I'm always trying to grow, like 1% per day type of job. Like, you get me? Like I'm always trying to like develop and become a better human. Because like obviously if you see me about a year or 2 ago, I was a completely different person than I am now, you get me? So I probably don't ever think I'll stick to the one sound forever. I'll probably stick to it for a long period of time if I'm feeling that for a long period of time. Like, but like I have this album here that I wrote majority of it throughout my teenage years, you get me? So like that's why it's kind of more on the vibe it's on now. But I do have about like 20 other songs that are completely different to what's on this, you get me? Like I have things where I'm just purely singing the whole time, and it's like, it is more indie derived from, you get me? Like it's like more just guitar driven and actual drums and stuff, whereas like this is more like a trap element. So I don't know, I don't ever see myself sticking to one sound for the rest of my life. I think I'm always going to be developing and growing. I'm probably changing per album, I don't know. I'm only saying what I think. I can't actually give you a guaranteed answer there, do you get me?
Yeah, so you're more of like an ever evolving artist, like you're not ever like tied down in one spot.
Yeah, like I want to kind of break down the walls of genres, you get me? Like I don't want to just sit in one genre. I want to be in multiple. I want to not showcase that I can do everything, because like a jack of all trades is a master of none, but I do want to be able to have like people can put my music in whatever playlist, you get me? So it would always fit. So maybe they might not have like Misguided Adolescent in a playlist, but to be able to put in my newer songs, whatever, into it, or if they're into a more like introverted, more introspective look on life, they're probably put in things like Heterophile World. Like I want to have everything. I don't only want to be known as one thing, you get me? I always want to be developing, like.
And so like I just wanted to hit you with this and see what you think of it. Like for me, like this album kind of seems like it's a lot about you changing and kind of looking back in your past and like being like, this is where I'm at now and this is how I need to move on from things. Would that be something like what it's about, or how do you feel about that?
I mean, I think you kind of got with the nail on the head there, because like I feel back in the day I wasn't the most, like I've always been a confident, outspoken person. Like I wouldn't be afraid to tell you what I think, but there was a period in time where like, I don't know, something happened and I just became like a shell of a person. Like I wasn't who I was. So that's what this kind of album's about, is literally the different things, the different mindsets I was going through, like with Tear Slowly Drops, obviously like kind of being like, oh, don't feel like unwanted, you get me? Like, you know what I'm saying? I was like digesting that and being like whatever, and I think a lot of people will go through that. So that's why we like have that as like the first one. So it's like kind of drawing you in, being like, this is what this is about. And then it kind of gets like uplifted a bit with Born to Shine. So I guess you would say like that is, oh, what's up, little doggy?
The first 3 tracks of the album, Tear Slowly Drops, Born to Shine, Can't Fake Being Humble. For me, like when I'm listening to the album, it's like the way I've kind of like interpreted it is that there's like a past, present, and future in the album.
Yeah.
So I feel like the first 3 songs are very much dealing with like some past troubles in your life, whatever it is, and you trying to like recognize that. And then it feels like the middle of the album is kind of you being in the present, being like, this is what's going on now and this is where I need to get to. And the last 2 tracks, The Old Me, and Sometimes, I kind of feel like it's you being like, I'm fully recognizing what's going on with me and I need to like progress from this.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, again, that's perfectly summed up. Like, but the reason The Old Me is the last song on the album is kind of like, you get through all this and you're like, oh shit, he was obviously like going through shit or whatever. But then The Old Me is being like, right, I'm gonna just cut my losses, I'm gonna leave all that behind me, there's no point focusing on all that shit, like, you get me? Sometimes you need to leave the old you behind in order to progress and move forward. So that's why it's kind of like a full loop nearly, because like a Tear Slowly Drops, you're like this shell, and like with the video that I have planned for it, it's like kind of like looped. You'd have to wait for the video to come out to make 100% sense of it, but The Old Me is kind of like the perfect loop to it, and it goes off into a Tear Slowly Drops, and that's kind of going to be like a full loop of the album. So every time you listen to the album, you kind of pick up a different thing every time, but it always comes back to being like, alright, I'm leaving the old me behind me.
What will come next? And I always overthink, cause my head's a fucking mess, and I never check my phone.
Why do you think now is the time to bring out Misguided Adolescent?
Well, I was never actually going to release them, and To be honest with you, I was never gonna release it. It was like something like a project I made, and I kind of kept it to myself. It's like, because like writing music for me, I guess it's kind of like therapy in a way, but it's also like a way for me to process things. Because like I can go through something, and then in your head it can be this big deal, but when you see it written out on paper, you're just like, oh, it's actually not a big deal. Maybe I'm just overthinking shit, and that's kind of like how I process things. So I was never gonna release it. I showed it to a couple of people. And when I showed them, they were like, nah, man, you need to release this. So I was like, right, maybe it's time to just finally release it, like, you know?
Yeah, so you think this whole album is just about you kind of like cathartically like getting this stuff off your chest and putting it out there and being like, I'm finished with that now and I can move on from all this stuff. I don't have to hold on to it anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weight off the shoulder a bit, because like you have all this stuff and you're contemplating, like, should I put it out, should I not? And then you're kind of like trying to process, it's like, I wonder what people are going to think about this. But then you kind of grow up a bit and you're like, right, to be honest, this is what I want to do. Fuck people's opinions. Like, everyone has an opinion, doesn't mean it's a fact. Like, I could have an opinion of someone else could have an opinion of someone and be completely different, you get me? So it's kind of, it just felt like it was time, you know?
A fraction of riches, you acting suspicious, you wanted my game. I'm doing it different, it's why they all listen, what can I say?
How I'm feeling about myself as an artist, man, I'm feeling damn good, like, to be honest. I feel like it's all going the way I want to at the moment. Like, I'm only really starting about like a year and a half ago, like, releasing music, so we're still early days, you get me? So for it to be sounding as it does now, I'm very happy, because like it took me about a year to try and perfect my actual sound, because like I didn't know how to mix and master, but like now I do. Well, I'm still getting there. Like, there's a few tweaks I still have to make, because the stuff isn't like completely professional, but like, you know how it is. I'm feeling comfortable with it now. When it comes to like the peers and stuff like that, like I don't really be like, I haven't invested too much into the Irish scene, because I've just been focused on my own work at the moment. But a couple of people that I have linked up with, like MCG and CK, like, they're sick, man. They're people I'd always like recommend for people to listen to as well, like, you get me? So that's just the main people I really fuck with. Them, then obviously Burner, them, I only linked up with him recently, I only got talking to him, but he's sick. Like, I like what he's doing. He's like, he has like kind of a similar vibe to me, I suppose, because he is on that like political spectrum, but he also does like do more introspective stuff, but he does also have the singing on it as well, which is, I think, is really cool. So they're the main people I've really like talked to. I haven't really talked to many people in the scene just yet, but I do want to start working with a lot of artists and just getting my name out there a bit, and like also like linking with people, because like the more people you know who are doing the same thing as you're doing, the further you can go, kind of, in a way, because like you can all rub off each other, you can all help each other out and stuff like that, and that's kind of what I want to do, because my goal is kind of like to go somewhere else, because like I'm thinking about moving. I want to go somewhere else, get an air for myself, and then bring it back to the Irish community. Kind of like how Drake did, you know, how like for Toronto, I kind of want to do that for Dublin. Now, like, obviously that's like, sounds like I'm being arrogant or anything like that, nothing about that. Like, obviously I'm not at that standard just yet, but that's what I want to do. I want to get a name elsewhere and bring it back to Ireland and give the scene more recognition, you know?
Yeah. And so, like, how do you feel about like the industry you're trying to get into right now, or do you even think about that?
What do you mean, like, as in music,
like,
or?
Yeah, the music industry, like hip hop, the scene right now.
To be honest, I don't really put too much thought and effort into it. I'm just doing what I do, and if people like it, they like it. Like, to be honest, like, there's like, when it comes to my music, like, I don't know if I make good music, if I make bad music. I just make music that I feel comfortable with putting out. You get me? And if people like it, they like it. If they don't like it, I mean, each their own. Like, everyone has an opinion. It is what it is. Like, you can't really like stress yourself out about that. Like, obviously it'd be cool to make some kind of income off it, that you're able to just do it only and not have to work a job or anything like that. But like, I mean, you can't really stress out about things. Like, it'll happen when it happens. Like, there's no need to like think about that logistically, like, you know.
Yeah. And just as well, like, how do you feel currently right now today about the album and releasing it next month?
Excited, to say the least. Yeah, I'm proper excited, just because like, when it comes to releasing an album, like, it's, you literally have a whole project that you're putting together, and then you're putting it out there for people to get like opinions on. Like, some people might say it's fucking shit, some people might think it's the best thing ever, who knows? Like, again, can't really stress out about that. I'm just excited that I actually had like a project finished and ready to go to put out there, and it's my best work that I'm going to be releasing so far, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to it, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Sometimes I get lost inside my mind, and I seem to always find myself always wasting time.
So we're here at Ray Beach, where it's filmed Can't Fake Being Humble.
Okay, yeah.
Which is one of the songs off the album, obviously. And I'm just going to hit you with the question straight away.
Okay.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years as an artist?
5 years, man. Probably still making music, to be fair. Like, I don't really know how to be saying that. Probably wouldn't be living in Ireland, to be fair. To be honest with you, I'd probably going to London. Being dead honest with you, that's probably where I see myself in 5 years.
Do you think you're going to be still obviously making music, but do you think you'll be doing anything else as well as an artist, or do you think you'll like branch out and go any other places with it?
To be honest, when it comes to the music thing, I don't know fully what my direction is. I'm just making music that's personal to me, as I said before. So it could go places, it could not. Either way, I'm going to still be making music in 5 years. That's the way I see it. Like, now, a lot can change in 5 years because it's hard to predict what you're going to be doing in 5 years. It's hard to predict what you're going to be doing next month, you get me? But when it comes to 5 years, definitely still doing music, probably doing it in a different country. I'd love to, like, get a name for myself, as I was saying earlier, about like getting a name in a different place and then bringing that audience back to Ireland and giving it to the rest of the audience or rest of the people in Ireland who are making music, you get me? Yeah. Spreading it, like, you know, that's just the way I see it. But as long as I'm making money off music, I can always see myself making music, like, you get me? Even if I'm not, I'd probably still be making music.
Yeah, and do you see your sound like going a certain way, or like do you just kind of like, I know we touched on it earlier as well with that, but like, do you see you kind of like ending up with a certain sound, or like in the next 5 years having a certain sound, or something you're trying to hit, or are you just kind of always just trying to like see what's happening? And
to be honest, man, it's hard to predict because like you don't know what you're into. Like, I don't know, like when you were 15 or whatever, like were you into the same things you're into now? Maybe some things yes, but other things no. At this present moment in time, I'm liking the whole like trap element mixed with a bit of alternative guitar. But like, as I said to you before, like, I don't know, I could be out here singing gospel like Kanye in a few years. You never know, you get me? I could go on a mad spiritual buzz. Who knows with these things, you get me? Like, it could just go like that. But at this present moment in time, probably sticking with the sound I have now, mainly guitar driven, and then singing and rapping, yeah.
I'll hit you with this heavy question. It's a bit of a heavy one, but like, why do you keep making music? Why do you keep doing it? Why do you always come back to it? And why is this what you're trying to do?
Good question, man. I'd actually have to think about that one. So, my whole life, singing and like all that, like music was always my goal. That's what I wanted to do in my life, to be fair. Like, even as a little kid, like I was always singing songs. I wrote my first song ever when I was like 8. Now, complete dog shy, but like, fucking, at that time, I thought it was class, man. I thought it was like lethal doing it, like, you get me? Shout out to a couple of lads, laughed, but however. But yeah, no, I've always wanted to do music, but there's a strange pull on it that like just keeps pulling me back to actually doing music. And I can't put my finger on it, but we were talking about it off camera earlier, that like when it comes to making music, it's kind of what I do to process things. It's like my way of having a second opinion on my situations and stuff, because when I get it out and I put it on a piece of paper, it allows me to actually see it. Like, there's times where I'll be making music, like there's like, say in a full week I'll make a lot of songs or whatever, and then I'll listen back to them like in a month's time, like, oh shit, I was going through that and I didn't even realise I was going through that. I was just making music, you get me? So there's a bit of that pull on it. It's just how I process things, and I don't know, I just love music. It's just something I've always been into. Yeah.
And so just to come back to like the last 2 tracks of the album that we haven't talked about, Sometimes in the Old Me.
Yeah.
So I was saying earlier as well, like for me, like these 2 tracks are kind of like, they feel more like they're in the future. I know the Old Me is kind of looking back on things, but it kind of feels like you've kind of let go of certain things and you're trying to like look forward to the future and look to make that next jump, whatever it is, you know, as a person, musically, as an artist. Would that be something like you'd agree with, or like you feel the same way about?
Yeah, like Sometimes was written about, so Sometimes is a really old song, but basically how that came about is literally like when I was a teenager and shit like that, I just kind of felt lost and confused. I didn't have any proper like guidance being like, you should do this, you should do that. Like, obviously there's the traditional route of going to college, and I was going to go study psychology. That was my plan, but I decided against it because like I was always like, the only reason I'm going to do that is because like I'm afraid of doing the music thing. But then when I fully decided on doing the music thing, I was like, alright, fuck it, man, what's the point in worrying about it? So hopped on it. I was lost, confused. Sometimes I get lost in my mind, you get me? That's what that whole song came about. And it's like, even in that verse, it talks about how when it comes to music, I have to do something in my life and I can't be nothing. And when I'm doing nothing, I always get like bogged down a bit, being like, I need to be productive. Like, I can't really chill out. I find it hard to relax as a person. I always have to be doing something. So I talk about that in that song. That's why, again, it comes down to music, because music's like one of the main things I excel at easily without having to try that much. Like, you get me? I don't even be writing half my stuff down. I just normally just do it into the mic, you get me? Like, I take a few seconds off it. Like, I wouldn't be freestyling the whole thing. Like, obviously I'm still thinking about what I'm doing, but I don't write it down as much, you get me? And I guess you can kind of tell that with my music, but it also, I guess, it gives that also raw element as well to it. But when it comes to the old me, that song came about again. It's just like, people might have a certain image of you, even if they haven't talked to you in about a good few years, whatever, and they have that image of you, and it's like, whatever you're doing. So when it comes to going on to a new process, I don't know about you with your whole filming thing when you were in school or anything like that, but the Eoghan you were there to the one you are now is probably completely different, and some people probably still have the old you in their head. And this song is literally about being like, right, I find it funny how they think they know me when I haven't spoken to them in years, and they can go around chatting shit about you or whatever it is, about your new stuff that you're doing, but they haven't even been in touch with you. So it's kind of like cutting your losses, me like, right, mate, fuck it, like, I don't care, you're giving me a 2 cents expecting me to make some change, like, you know, it's like, you're trying to tell me what to do when you don't even know what I want, because we haven't talked in years. So that's what that whole song is about, is just being like, alright, fuck y'all, like, I'm doing my own thing, like, without being too harsh with with it, but that is how it is. Like.
Yeah, and so do you feel like now with the release of this album, more than like anything you've dropped, that like it's kind of like in your own mind cementing yourself as an artist, and that like, I'm doing this thing, like it's like I'm really, you know what I mean, I'm committing to this now? Or have you always felt like that before, or is it more now because I have an album coming out?
If to anyone who knows me, they'll probably say the same. Like, when I get into something, I'm really into it. Like, and I have like an addictive personality. Like, I'm quite obsessive when it comes to things I like. So when it comes to like, when I was into football, I was really into football. When I get into the gym, I'm really into the gym. Or if I'm into a particular series, like I'm been watching the whole thing. Like, I'm getting through it before I do anything else in my life. You get me? Like, I'm very one-track mind. When I decide on something, I'm getting it done. And I don't know if that's something wrong with me or not, but it's just like how I'm wired, like, you get me? So it kind of ties back to the music thing. I decided on it, this is what I'm doing. And from the get-go, I was giving it 100% the whole time. I was saying like mad things in my songs, but back when I started out being like, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that, like, you get me? And like, as I said before, I dropped nearly like 33 songs in my first year. Like, I was just flat out the whole time, just doing it by myself. So whenever I decide I'm doing something, I'm doing it to the full level, and I don't give a fuck, like, you get me? That's just how I am. And it's also a double-edged sword, because it's kind of dangerous when it comes to like getting into things you probably shouldn't get into, you know? Yeah.
So like, do you feel like you've arrived since like you've started off as like making music? Do you feel like with this album you've arrived at like a point, or is it just kind of like a continual flow? Or do you feel like you've come to a certain point now, and now there's an end to a chapter and you're starting anew?
I don't know, man, to be fair, which is like, I would like to say yes, I'm leaving this old me behind, which is, again, going back to one of the songs, like, leaving that old me that people know behind me, and I'm doing my thing now. So I would like to say it's the start of a new chapter, of a more serious, more professional RAISXN, you get me? And then, yeah, that's really it, man.
Yeah. So when is the album coming out?
The album is meant to drop on April 25th, so I probably I don't know if it's going to be out by when this is out, or if this is coming out beforehand, but yeah, 25th of April, so yeah, that's it.
We'll see it there, on all streaming services?
It'll be on everything, man, everything, absolutely everything, like, even that like little title thing that people probably don't even made fucking on it, man. See, like, I don't know, your nanny's fucking iPad that only streams like SoundCloud on the off day, like, it's got to be on it, like, you get me? It's on it, everything. These are, if you're into that type of buzz, it's on it, man. Like, Amazon, on it. Apple, on it. Everything on it.
No, I guess, like, it's obviously cool that we're here again on the same beach where we filmed Can't Fake Being Humble.
Yeah, that's mad.
Yeah, like, again, like, just kind of a similar question to the HFL World one. Like, do you feel at all, like, since then, I don't know, you've changed as an artist or like a person? Or, like, do you think you're kind of still in the album state?
I'm still kind of in the album stage, just due to the fact that, you know, like, we filmed Can't Fake Being Humble here, so, like, it's still a part of the album, so I haven't really changed much since this point in time when we did that, even though that was a good few months ago, like, still holds true now, you know? And that was the first video that, like, obviously we did HFL World, but this is the one, like, I was like, okay, album mode has started, you get me? So it's kind of cool that we're back here doing this little interview, you know?
Yeah, and so the album, like back then, the album wasn't what it is now.
Oh, no.
It's changed quite a bit since then.
Oh, yes.
So, like, if you could just talk about, like, how, like, why and, like, how it's kind of, like, changed over the last couple of months.
Oh, man, I was just overthinking the bits. It was like, I wanted to put the best shit out, and I wanted to make it as concise as possible. I could have had about 14, 15 songs on it, and I was like, yeah, that's sick. But I didn't want to, like, from a first proper project, like, I didn't want to have too many things on it, just because I wanted it to also be digestible and concise and just full of good shit, rather than, like, maybe one or two songs that are maybe mediocre or anything like that. But I just wanted everything to just, like, connect. So that's why I kind of shortened it down. There was a good few songs that I let you listen to it and you were like, yeah, that has to go on it, but I was like, man, that has to get the cut, like, you get me? Like, there's a few things that would probably come out as singles after, but like, yeah, it was a tough process deciding, but it had to be done.
Yeah, so it was like, when you were cutting songs out, were you thinking of like a theme, or were you thinking more so like, this just isn't up to a standard that like I expect of myself now? Or was it, how are you trying to like organise the album? Why did you organise the album the way you did?
Well, basically, when it came to the songs that I cut out, one was like when I record them, and it was at a different time, and I was like mixing, and I didn't know how to mix as well as I do now. So when I mixed them songs and listened to back now, I was like, I have to re-record all this. So I didn't have it done in time for the album, but also some of them I felt like didn't fully connect with the whole theme of like everything didn't interconnect with every other song, because like every song in this has kind of like an interconnected loop, like, you get me? All of them do, and that's why it's kind of in the order is in the way I put it in that order is basically because like everything I went through is kind of in that sequence, you get me? Yeah. So I wanted to put it in like a story format, so like you can listen to every song and be like, okay, you went through that. Next song's like, oh, we like that, yeah. And then it kind of like, it tears slowly drops, kind of pulls you in, brings that like heaviness to it, and then a Born to Shine takes you out, gives that like uplifting moment, being like, okay, we're doing it. Lifeline's kind of being like, oh shit, brings you back down a bit, but it's also kind of like giving you a bit more of a perception into like the love life at the time, you get me? Like, and then it comes back out as like, alright, fuck all that, I don't really give a rat's, like, I'm doing my thing now, fuck y'all. Like, not in a like a crude way, but it's just like, I'm doing my thing now, you get me? Then Misconceptions kind of piggybacking back to like Lifeline type of buzz, and then it's interconnecting. That's why like it goes up being like, alright, you know, when you go through a breakup, you're like, alright, fuck that, I don't need anybody, you get me? Then it goes back into it where you kind of later down the line, you kind of again, you get hit with the wave of being like, damn. But then it goes back out being sometimes being like, you get kind of that loss of mind, confusion, so it's kind of linking into that, being like you're going piggybacking over your train of thought, and you're like, shit, so you're getting lost. And then the old me is just being like, fuck all that shit, we're leaving that behind us, I'm doing my new thing. Like.
I find it funny how the chicken at the lonely. I've been having to be caught up on the only. If you're looking, you can catch you with a dope. We're not friends, so we don't hang out all alone.
I mean, I just have a lot of shit coming for 2022, man. A lot of stuff. Like I have so many plans. Like I'm pretty certain I'm gonna be dropping like maybe a song or two, like a month or two after this album releases. So there's a lot. Just keep your eye out. There's a lot of stuff coming. I'm excited for what I have to offer, and I'm hoping people connect with it. If they don't, it is what it is. Like, I'm not gonna stress about it. I'm just gonna keep doing me. So yeah.
Stay the same. Feels like a breakup, except minus all the pain. I think it's time that we finally went the separate ways. Your presence draining, I know it's nearly